Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve. I am thrilled to say that late 90s/early 2000s icon Freddie Prinze Jr. is back in a new holiday rom-com, and that alone is cause to celebrate. Today's video is a review of Christmas with You, which is another new Netflix rom-com. I already posted my review of Falling for Christmas, which is the holiday rom-com starring Lindsay Lohan, but Christmas with You is a little bit different in its premise. We have Angelina, a pop star portrayed by Aimee Garcia, who is struggling with her career. She is experiencing some burnout, some writer's block, and her record label and the media at large are making her feel washed up, irrelevant, and like someone who is struggling to stay on top of current trends. Right off the bat, one of the most charming things about this film is that it has a distinct cultural identity. It doesn't feel like a project where two Latin American actors were cast incidentally. Their heritage is very present throughout the story. Angelina's pop songs are bilingual. Freddie Prinze Jr.'s mother in the movie is watching telenovelas. He's cooking pozole, which I have never tried myself, but I did Google it when I was watching my press screener for this film because I wanted to know more details about what was in it. Angelina decides that she needs to get out of the city, reconnect with her fans, and goes to meet one whom she found on social media, who happens to be the daughter of Freddie Prinze Jr.
Angelina. Hey, is she on that Bumble?
Dad. No.
Since the embargo of this film is the same time as the release of the film, I am going to be talking about spoilers. So if all you want to know is whether or not I like the film or if I recommend it, my very condensed feedback is that the film is cute. But as you may have guessed by the title, the lack of budget was an issue for me. I found that the lack of budget was very noticeable in the overall quality and look of the film, and I just wish that it had been given more of a chance to truly thrive the way that it could have if it didn't have a budget problem. So now we will be getting into more of the spoilers. First things first, I love, like I said, that this film has a distinct cultural identity. Growing up, a lot of the rom-coms I watched from Hollywood did not have a lot of ethnic or cultural diversity. The only notable exceptions I can think of off the top of my head were Jennifer Lopez, of course, being a rom-com icon.
Oh, and I honestly love you as your wedding song? You might as well commit matrimonial suicide right now.
And of course, the beloved indie juggernaut known as My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
You're engaged. We never think it could happen for you. Never.
I really enjoyed seeing Freddie Prinze Jr. back in a rom-com, but beyond that, I love that he got to be unapologetically Latino. Hopefully I don't have to explain to people that Latin people can be any ethnicity, but a lot of Freddie's most popular roles from the 90s and early 2000s were lacking that element of him being able to play his own personal cultural background. But first we had Always Be My Maybe being a giant exclamation point reminder that Keanu Reeves is Asian. And now we have Christmas with You being a giant exclamation point reminder that Freddie Prinze Jr. is Latino.
And then when you hired the safest Latino in the world,
now all we need to complete this trifecta would be to have Mark Paul Gosselaar be in a rom-com in which he actually gets to play an Asian lead.
Did you know that my mother, and I'm saying this as if like I'm excited about this, but my mother is Asian. My mother is from Indonesia.
she's from Indonesia.
She's from Indonesia. My mother is this tiny little Indonesian woman, and you know, it's
Oh,
little people don't know that Zach Morris is half Asian.
Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character's name in this film is Miguel Torres. His daughter in this movie is having her quinceañera. He flirts with his love interest by sensually folding tamales with her. Yeah, you heard me. Sensually folding tamales. They were playing that sequence in slow motion. I love that this movie was showcasing something that is not just a Latino thing. There are loads of cultures all over the world that do this, where food is a love language. How many of you who are immigrants or diaspora living wherever you're living with whatever motherland is in your ancestry and have relatives who might not be great at saying I love you, but they will make sure whenever they see you, you're getting fed? Exactly. We see this with Miguel's mother insisting that Angelina needs to eat. And like I already said, we see it with Miguel showing Angelina how to make tamales. Fellas, what exactly is stopping you from being like Miguel Torres? He is out here being the blueprint, and what are you doing? Listening to a podcast? Turn it off and go take a cooking class. You're welcome. Being that I am reviewing this film so close to another review that I did of another holiday rom-com, Falling for Christmas, it's inevitable that I'm going to compare the two because that other review and film is so fresh in my mind. I am making this review only a couple of days after I made that other review. Falling for Christmas fully embraced the fact that it was a comeback for Lindsay Lohan. Now, Freddie has never been gone from the industry. He has kept working, doing a fair bit of voiceover work and animation. But for this to be a holiday rom-com on one of the biggest worldwide platforms, I think the story would have benefited from using him more than they did. Now, this is not in any way a knock against Aimee Garcia. I only mean that he feels very secondary in the story. This was only an hour and a half, and I think you could have easily expanded it to either an hour 45 or even a 2-hour runtime and fleshed out his character more so they were more equally present in the story. When you get to the part where Miguel is directly calling out Angelina for denying what her true feelings for him are, Freddie was delivering the goods. He was acting.
I never thought I'd let anyone in again, ever. And then here you come.
Because the film underused him and underdeveloped him as a character, when he was giving this dramatic speech, it came across a little bit like exposition dumping when if you had done more to show how up until this point in his life he has been closed off romantically, but he just couldn't help but open up because of meeting Angelina, that speech would have felt more earned than it did. Now, don't get me wrong, Freddie sold me on it because he's just that good, but I am rooting so hard for the rom-com to get the revival that it deserves, and I think we're seeing the beginnings of it starting to pick up more momentum this year, but at the same time, Netflix needs to learn that they can't just go around underfunding rom-coms and setting them up to fail and then acting like, oh, people just don't want rom-coms anymore. That's a lie. If you do them well, they succeed, and you can and should build up and reinvigorate the genre. Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, Jennifer Lopez, Lindsay Lohan, and Freddie Prinze Jr. all returned to rom-coms in 2022, and the fact that his film is the weakest of that group is on you, the people who paid for it. Angelina and Miguel are cute together, but it's also distracting to be trying to follow their respective journeys as characters and their romance with each other, and then get distracted by things like blurry edges around their faces because the work on the green screen behind them was underfunded and rushed, or at least that's how it looked. Angelina was sitting in a car telling her assistant to drive them out of the city. Miguel is taking Angelina to a beautiful, highly lit park in order to help her crack her writer's block. And instead of me being fully in the moment with them as characters, I'm looking at the blurry outline around their faces of the location that's been keyed in behind them. I like that there was this playful energy in regards to Angelina being a pop star with things like her accidentally doing choreo that was too mature for the teenagers who wanted help to put together a routine for Christina's quinceañera.
Let's do something like 1, 2, 3. Let's not do that.
And also the fact that Miguel's mother didn't seem to particularly care about her being famous when she was meeting her for the first time. All she did was give her a hug and welcome her like she's part of the family. There were plenty of cute and fun moments like that, but I think they could have leaned harder into the comedic potential of the film's premise. Mayhem is an underrated component of rom-coms. Mayhem can be expressed by way of things like physical comedy or by exaggerating a circumstance or setting for the sake of humor. There is plenty of room for that when you're in the world of pop stars and demanding record labels. Do any of you remember Monster-in-Law when they had the legendary Jane Fonda tackle a pop star on her talk show because she found out she was going to get fired, and they built up the tension of that scene so effectively to the point that she snapped? The idea of someone actually doing that in real life is, of course, ridiculous, but it's a rom-com, and you should have fun with that. Jennifer Lopez and Jane Fonda were slapping each other on her wedding day.
Bitch slapped me all over my whole entire face.
I am giving this feedback with the hope that people will still watch Christmas with You, because regardless of my issues with it, it's still a cute film, and I want more rom-coms, but I also want more people to understand what factors make rom-coms as great as they can be. Now, admittedly, Monster-in-Law is a bit more camp than some other rom-coms, but even if you take something like Kate and Leopold, they had Hugh Jackman, the Hugh Jackman, play a time-traveling duke who ends up in a butter commercial. You heard me, a butter commercial.
Fresh, creamery butter. Is there anything more comforting?
I still gave Christmas with You 3.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, but there was enough potential in the film's premise and the lead actors that they had cast to play the main couple that I just feel as though there were certain things that could have been fine-tuned to make it excel more than it actually did. There was a lot of information provided about how Angelina was impacted by the loss of her mother. That's why she struggles with the holiday season, and the idea of writing a Christmas song is so challenging for her. Miguel lost his wife at some point, and I don't think they did enough to dive into that and how it impacted him. If they had done so, it could have been a means of drawing another parallel between them as characters, and consequently add more dimension to their romantic connection with each other, as well as the central point of them writing a Christmas love song together. And on that note, I feel a little bad saying this, but the song, when they finally revealed it, after all of this build-up to that being this thing that they are building together, it just didn't live up to the hype. The song was just kind of okay, but on top of that, I don't think there was enough done to cinematically elevate the presentation of the song, the unveiling of the song. You needed to zhuzh it up with the lighting, the cinematography, and again, I think this is where the lack of budget was noticeable. They very clearly did not have some giant performance space to enhance the impact of this song reveal, but if you had deployed a different approach in how you filmed and edited it, it might have helped. I don't want to be insensitive in any way to the crew that would have undoubtedly been working very hard to make this film the best that they could make it. If I had to guess, I think it all goes back to a lack of budget. Rom-coms used to have significantly higher budgets because it was known that they were a juggernaut in the entertainment industry. And somewhere along the way, they fell off. And that makes producers who are about business and profits above all else more hesitant to fund as much and invest as much in rom-coms. We have already seen this year that The Lost City and Ticket to Paradise have made money, and part of what makes their production budgets more expensive is the salary of A-listers like Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts, and George Clooney. Freddie Prinze Jr. is great, but I highly doubt that his asking price for salary is anywhere near the amount of those other actors I just named. You could have given this production more money than you did. Now, I've harped a fair bit on the budget issues, so I want to circle back around to some other facets that I have some more positive feedback for, because I don't want it to sound like I'm being mean-spirited in any way. I like that Angelina was always upfront and honest with Miguel about why she wanted and needed to write this song with him. Part of me thought that she might end up being tricky with her words when pitching the idea, since we've seen more than once a deceptive approach to the jumpstart of a relationship in a rom-com, and then once the truth is finally revealed, we get some sort of falling out before the inevitable reconciliation. They instead opted to have her inability to fully open up about how she really feels about Miguel be what drives them apart before they, of course, inevitably reconcile. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a bit of deception from time to time in a rom-com. It just depends on the execution. I don't want any of that to be cruel, but like I've already said, I like a bit of mayhem now and then in my rom-coms. I also thought it was really cute when everyone was giving Angelina and Miguel looks because they can see that they're having a connection, that they're becoming a thing. It was just really funny, especially the assistant who was sipping on her wine while looking at them. So yes, to reiterate, The main negative point for this film is the lack of budget. The positives are that the Latin family dynamic is really cute and charming. And also, Freddie Prinze Jr. doing his big dramatic speech was the #1 highlight of the whole film.
It was never about the song for me. It was you. It was always you.
Ooh, say it again. Freddie, say it again. Rom-com fans, we want the declaration. We want people to share their feelings. That is essential. Give me Julia Stiles crying while she reads a poem that she wrote. We live for that stuff. That is the drama we want to see. Rip your heart out of your chest and throw it at the person that you love so there's no confusion about how you feel about them. And one final point. They have extra footage from the quinceañera playing during the credits. And that's going to be a no from me. Where were the bloopers? Keep me in the joyful state that the film should have just put me in by showing me bloopers of how much fun you people had making the film. Unless, of course, you didn't have fun and you don't have footage that makes for good bloopers. If so, that's awkward. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This might be a controversial question, but if you've made it this far, tell me, do you think She's All That is still a good rom-com? Or do you think it's aged poorly? That one I feel toes the line. It's still kind of iconic, but I also don't gravitate to it as much as I do other 90s rom-coms. Little to nothing can top 10 Things I Hate About You for me when it comes to 90s rom-coms, but that's probably a conversation for another day. So, I will see you in the next one. Bye.